I've just recently retired as a dean and a senior teacher at One Spirit. I was at One Spirit for 16 years, maybe. I've spent my whole life as a seeker. My background, I studied the Western classics in college, and then I've had a lifetime love of archetypal psychology and what we call the mythopoetic tradition, the place where the imagination and the soul touch and inform one another. And for the last many years, my role at One Spirit has included offering slow readings of all the sacred texts of all the traditions. One of my favorites, of course, has been Rumi, and with delight, I'm happy to offer this elective. Rumi has saved my life over and over again, and particularly in these times that are so difficult and these times which push us to really examine our own hearts, in which so many of us are living in despair. It seems important to be in touch with the blessing of a true mystic and the poetic kiss that he offers us to invite us into a different kind of reality than the small life that we often live. The poems are exquisite, and they're of a writing quality that's unequaled in most languages. And he's such a master of that, but he's also a master of the nuances of the spiritual path. His love story with his teacher, Shams, is one of the great love stories ever told. And by spending time with that and seeing what was uncovered in him through not only the love, but the loss of his beloved, and how that opened him up into the divine heart so that his own inner life became a magnification of this beautiful dance with God. And that's an inspiration that we really need to remember right now. I've been reading this since I was in my 20s. So a lot of years. I studied with Robert Bly when Robert was first translating Rumi and introduced Coleman Barks to Rumi so that Coleman could do those great translations for us. So my whole life has been immersed in that language, which is so transporting and so helpful. All of my teaching tends to be in seminar style, which means that we read material together and we talk about it. Usually what happens is that I'll do an offering each evening, but because it's Rumi, we'll be spending most of our time just letting those words pass through us and over us and reading poems one to another. Each night will be thematic. Rumi's insistence that we really go deep into ourselves and be willing to burn away everything that's not useful requires that we really take that imitation seriously as we listen to the musicality of that wisdom. So some nights we'll be in themes of longing, some nights in themes of burning, some nights in themes of intoxication, the great intoxication that he writes of, the wine of the beloved pouring through us as we experience that love deeply and profoundly and can share it with one another. And Rumi's the master of the whirling dance. And though this isn't a class on Sufism, we'll experience that great whirling where we get out of our heads and into our hearts. And I hope on that last evening, we just are in the luxury of blessing one another with the words that have meant something to us. Rumi is the best-selling poet in America. And so often we read him on the top level, which is the simple love poems. I haven't performed a wedding in 20 years without a Rumi poem being included. But there's a deeper Rumi, a more complicated one that magnifies the Quran, one that expresses his own deep struggle to make sense of a life that has a great grief and loss in it, and then finds liberation in his love for God. So one thing is just that deeper place of understanding where Rumi is. The second is a real experience of what it's like to have mystic ears and eyes, to see the world blessed as the mystics see it. Rumi, the greatest mystic probably ever. And to be able to mirror that in our own lives and experience, that would be a great thing for all of us. And then finally, and this is tough, Rumi's not just beautiful love poems. Rumi's also an invitation to change our lives, to transform the parts of us that are hidden, that need light, and that must be welcomed into consciousness so we can be truly free. It's important work for this time. I just know this with everything that I am.